Picture the best dessert of your life cut into small squares on a plate in front of you. You eat the first one, and it's incredible. Genuinely one of the best things you've ever tasted. Now, watch what your hand does next. It's already reaching for the second one. That reach is the engine of craving, and it isn't really about the taste. The enjoyment and the urge to get more feel like one thing, but they aren't. They're two separate systems running at the same time. One is liking, the actual pleasure of the thing while it's in your mouth, the good part. The other is wanting, the pull to go get more. And wanting is the louder of the two by far. The wanting is run by dopamine, and what dopamine actually does is not what most people think. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. It doesn't make things feel good. It makes you go get things. It's the engine of pursuit, the push to chase something down and get it. The actual pleasure, once you have it, is a separate and much quieter system, and it doesn't really run on dopamine at all, actually. In one study, rats with their dopamine blocked wouldn't even take a few steps across the cage to reach food, but put that same food in their mouth and they ate it and enjoyed it fine. The liking was intact, the drive to go get it was gone. So dopamine's job is to make you chase, it's to make you move, which means it has to fire before you get the reward, not after. Back to the plate. The hit of dopamine, the pull, came the moment you saw those squares, before you even took the first bite. That's the design. Dopamine spikes at the promise of a reward, and that spike is what yanks you toward it. So that's the first half of craving, a wanting system run by dopamine, pulling you to go get the thing. There's a second half, and it's the part that actually hurts. Think about the end of a great vacation, the flat feeling after the sugar wears off, the come down the morning after a big night. Or in the case of drugs and alcohol, the come down after a high. In each one, you didn't just return to normal, you actually dropped below it. You feel a little empty and a little low, a little worse than before the good thing happened. And when you dip into that low, you crave. It's your brain overcorrecting. Pleasure tips you up, and to balance it out, your brain pulls you down past where you started. And the only thing that lifts you back out of that low fast is the thing that puts you there. So the low itself becomes a pull toward more. And that's the trap. The good thing digs the hole, and the hole makes you reach for the good thing again. So a craving isn't really wanting something good. It's trying to climb out of a low the last hit left behind. Put the two halves together. Dopamine drives you to chase, and the come down from chasing drops you into a low that drives you to chase again. That's craving, a learned loop your brain runs, built from machinery that kept your ancestors alive. It was built for scarcity, where chasing the next meal and never feeling quite satisfied kept you moving and kept you alive. It just doesn't fit a world where the reward is always one tap away. With a small pleasure like dessert, the dip is small and it passes fast. Now take something much stronger, used over and over. Two things change, and both make it worse. First, the dip gets deeper, and your normal line itself starts to sink. Use enough, and your baseline drops below where it used to be. Now, ordinary life feels flat, not because life changed, but because your normal moved down. The stuff that used to feel good doesn't really register anymore. This is why people say nothing feels good anymore in active addiction. The baseline sank, and only the drugs still reach up to the old normal. Second, the wanting keeps growing while the liking fades. This is the part that makes no sense until you understand it. You can be desperate for something you don't even enjoy anymore. The pursuit system gets more and more sensitive to the thing. The pleasure it actually delivers gets weaker. They pull apart. So you end up craving something you don't even like anymore. It sounds like a contradiction, but it really isn't. It's just two separate systems, and only one of them broke. There's one more piece, and it explains why a craving can hit you out of nowhere. Cues. Your brain is an association machine. When something reliably shows up right before a reward, your brain links the two together. Here's how that link gets built. Your brain is constantly making predictions. When a reward beats the prediction, dopamine spikes, and that spike teaches your brain what to chase. When the reward is worse than predicted, dopamine dips, and that dip teaches it to expect less moving forward. Say you used with a spoon 1,000 times. Now the spoon alone makes your brain predict the hit. So the pull fires the second you use it. If you eat with it and don't use, reality comes in under the prediction, and that gap is part of how the pull slowly weakens over time. The classic version is a dog that hears a bell before every meal. Pavlov did this. Soon, the bell alone makes it drool. The bell now means food. Your brain does the same thing, but with everything around your reward. A time of day, a place, a feeling, a person, a song. After enough pairings, the cue alone fires the wanting surge. You walk past the old bar, and the pull hits before you've had a single thought. So the craving that came from nowhere didn't. A cue fired, often before you even noticed it. The cue is the bell, and your brain is the dog. It's also why stress and certain feelings set off cravings. If you used to reach for drugs and alcohol to cope, the feeling itself became the bell. So what do you do with all of this? A few things, and they come straight out of real research. Start with the single most useful fact about craving. It peaks and then it passes. A craving is a wave, not a line that climbs forever. Left alone, most peak and fade within about 20 to 30 minutes. The exact time, of course, varies, but it always crests and comes down. It feels like it'll keep climbing until you give in. It won't. It only feels that way while you're at the peak. So the first tool is simply to wait it out. Not forever, 20 minutes. Put time between the cue and the action. The second tool is how you wait. Don't fight it. Watch it. Fighting a craving, tensing up, telling yourself no, tends to make it louder. Trying not to think about it just keeps it in the room. Instead, notice it like weather. Name it. It's a craving. Feel where it sits in your body. Watch it rise, crest, and fall without acting on it. This is called urge surfing, and it comes straight out of relapse prevention research. You ride the wave instead of getting pulled under by it. And here's why it builds on itself. Every time a craving fires and you don't feed it, that cue to reward link gets a little weaker. Every time you do feed it, you make the link stronger. So every single craving is a rep, building one wire or the other. Ride out enough of them, and the same cues that used to floor you start to lose their grip. The wave gets smaller. The third tool is for early on, before that wiring is weakened. Distance. Avoid the cues you can actually avoid. Early on, avoid the bar, the route, the group, the app. Every cue you don't walk into is a bell you don't ring, and a wave you never have to surf in the first place. The fourth tool is the one people skip because it's uncomfortable. Don't ride it out alone. Call your sponsor. Get around the people who have your back. Tell them out loud that you're craving and ask them to hold you accountable. A craving said out loud to someone safe loses a lot of its power. Kept secret, it grows. Connection is one of the strongest things we have against relapse. That's not a slogan, it's what the outcomes show. The fifth tool is to move your body. Go for a walk, get to the gym, do anything physical. It burns off the stress driving the craving, gives the wave time to pass, and gives you a clean hit of the good stuff the honest way. And the last one matters most. Your baseline recovers. The system that sank can climb back up. Give it weeks without feeding the cycle, and the dips get shallower. Small, everyday things start to feel good again, and the wanting quiets down. It's not instant, and it's not a straight line. Some days are worse than the last, but over time, the direction is up. For a real addiction, these tools are the daily skill, not the whole answer. The people who make it don't do it on willpower alone. They stack support around themselves. There's no shame in needing all of it. The wanting outlived the liking because the machinery is strong. You're allowed to bring back up. Start to finish, this is what a craving actually is. A cue fires, dopamine surges, not pleasure, but pursuit. pulling you toward the thing that you want. You get the hit, then your system overcorrects into a dip, and the dip makes you want more. Do it enough, and the wanting grows while the enjoyment fades, and your whole baseline sinks. All of it is mechanical, a learned loop with a shape you can now recognize the moment it starts. And a wave can be ridden. It peaks, it passes, and every one you let pass without feeding makes the next one smaller. Now back to that plate of dessert. The reach for the next square isn't a command, it's just your wanting system talking. You don't have to argue with it, you just have to know what it is and let it pass. And that's where recovery actually starts. A craving isn't proof you're failing, it's just a wave. Learn its shape, and it stops running the show.